Hey guys, Max Lugavere here, coming to you from Equinox's amazing high performance living symposium, an incredible event. Some of you guys might remember that I spoke here last year. I talked all about the role of various nutrients in neurogenesis, but I'm honored to be here just as a attendee this time around, and I'm sitting here with none other than Jeffrey Bland, the father of functional medicine. I've spoken to David Perlmutter, Mark Hyman. They all say that this is the guy that they look up to and learn from. And so I just wanted to pull him here for you guys to talk a little bit about his work. You guys might have read his book, The Disease Delusion. If you haven't, it's amazing. I highly recommend going to check it out on Amazon.com. But Jeffrey, this is our first time meeting.
What a treat.
What a treat, yeah.
I tell you, you have the energy that's infectious, so it's just fun to be around you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
No kidding.
I mean, this is what you talk about and what everybody that I've just mentioned talk about. It's a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. I'm very passionate about it.
No, you're kidding me.
I love it. And I also think it's cool and interesting, and it inspires awe. I think health and medicine needs a bit of that an injection of it's the potential to induce awe in people, because really, like, we're wondrous organisms, we're wondrous instruments.
So you just said it. Can I just capture a moment of what you just said, because it's powerful? Our whole system right now is built around the fear of disease. It's a very negative connotation. It doesn't speak, people really don't want to hang out with the fear of disease, but that's the whole focus. What you're talking about is the excitement, the effervescence, the enthusiasm of health, right?
Absolutely.
Which is really where we're going right now in this whole new technology. So, right on.
Thank you so much. So tell me about what you were talking about today. You had an amazing, people were still buzzing from your presentations. What was it about?
It's about the most precious thing that we'll ever have in our life that we should never deface, water spot, mark, or not take seriously. It's called our Book of Life. It's encoded by 23 chapters, half of written by our biological father, the other half by our biological mother, and it doesn't tell us who we are. It tells us the number of things that we could be, depending on how we treat, act, and how we read our Book of Life and where we read it. The implication of our lifestyle, our environment, our nutrition, our exercise, our thoughts, our attitudes, our beliefs, our associations, the environment in the largest sense that we live in and how it affects us, then leads to the expression of our Book of Life, which becomes us.
Wow, so you're talking about epigenetics, is that correct?
Well, you have to be cautious, because that term is a little bit, from the pure science, kind of misused. Epigenetics really refers to specifically putting marks on the genes that regulate how they're expressed. Part of what I'm saying is related to epigenetics, but part is just related to accessing the genetic information that is present in our Book of Life on a daily basis without having to put marks in the genes by expression patterns. So what I'm really saying is, in our Book of Life, we have what I call Greek tragedy stories. Those are the stories of inflammation and cell replication and so forth. And then we have the stories of karmic bliss, love stories in our genes. So which stories do we really want to read? I think most people would like to think that we could improve our overall health span by reading those really friendly stories.
So interesting. So basically, when I think of the fact that I can eat certain foods that activate specific pathways, like the BDNF pathway or NRF2, which is a master controller of inflammation. So you're saying that that's not necessarily an epigenetic switch that's being flipped.
That's correct.
Got it. Very interesting.
Now, it could be an epigenetic switch. I mean, there are ways that one could put marks on your specific, I call them sticky notes and paper clips on your Book of Life.
Wow.
Sticky notes are read here. Paper clips are expurgated. You can't read this section of your Book of Life. So those are epigenetic marks. But what I'm really speaking to is the real stuff that happens day by day, moment by moment, in which you're turning on and turning off genes without putting paper clips or sticky notes on. Just this conversation, hopefully, is creating in both of us the expression of genes that are on our bliss side, right?
Right.
And so we don't need an epigenetic mark in order to do that. We are activating those capabilities right now.
Wow. What are some, and if you guys are just tuning in, once again, I'm sitting here with Jeffrey Bland. If you can let us know that you're hearing us and that everything is all good, why don't you say, hi, Jeff? Let him know that you guys are paying attention. I mean, this is an amazing privilege for me to be interviewing him on Facebook Live. We've already got a bunch of people tuned in. So what are some things that people that are tuning in can do every single day? Maybe your top 3 things that they can do to affect their gene expression in a positive and beneficial way.
Yeah, good question. So the first thing is really getting your genes analyzed. People say, well, I don't really want to know my genes. I mean, it might have bad news in it. But I look at it very, very differently. I happened to give my family, as a holiday present a couple of years ago, genetic test kits, and they went, oh yeah, thanks Dad, just what we wanted. But when they got the information back, it was very different than what they anticipated, because they were introducing themselves in a very intimate way, a way saying, these are my genes that come from the river of life that has come down to my confluence. There's no one that's ever been like me or identical to me, and there's no one that ever will be again. I own this information. This is me. And I think that that is a very powerful first step, because the path to health starts with intimacy, right? It starts with the intimacy with ourselves, that we're worthy of really being healthy and of being functional, and that it's in our genes. It's not our disease risk, it's our health resilience that we want to turn on. So that would be my first step. My second step then would be what I guess you'd call conscious living. Once you've got that information, what are you going to do with it? You're going to consciously activate your life to produce out of your book of life the best stories that are being read. And then the third thing is, okay, what is under conscious living? The things that we volitionally can do every day that we can modify, sleeping, eating, moving, relationships. Now we start to go down the list, and then we personalize that. If we get more sophisticated, we learn more about ourselves, we seek out as information seekers ultimately the right kind of recipe for us, and we recognize that if we treat ourselves with the respect that our genes deserve, we're going to do things in our lives that are far greater than we ever expected.
Wow, amazing. So we've covered awareness of the book of life within, consciousness, living a more mindful lifestyle, and you haven't the connections of its body. Sorry guys. I'm a big fan of nutrition. People that follow me know that I'm really interested in macronutrients, micronutrients. Give us, what are some of your favorite nutrition tips?
Well, I think the real key for me in nutrition, without kind of getting lost in the
weeds,
technicalities sometimes, is to eat close to the ground, right? Eat as low in processing as possible. Eat as little of synthetic stuff that gets thrown into our food as possible, and eat with color and variety, and not synthetic color, but colors that come naturally through plant foods. I think if you have those particular kind of rules, and then you stay with things that are really stewardship of the environment, because when we eat for our own health, we're eating for the world and the planet as well, as this old Francis Moore Lepe's old concept of diet for a small planet. We're really doing all sorts of things simultaneously that are going to be good for everybody. Then we can get into vitamins, minerals, proteins, carbs, fats, the accessory nutrients, phytochemicals, and there's all sorts of
That's my
stuff.
favorite topic.
Well, that's really fun.
Yeah, I tend to go down what I call nerd safaris on PubMed. So I just my like home page in my web browser is PubMed, and I can spend hours and hours going down infinite rabbit holes.
Yeah. Well, you and I are born from the same genes, obviously, because that's my problem too.
Obviously, yeah.
I'm absolutely. That's what got me to this field. I was a medical school professor starting in '70 through about '82, and I just got more and more pulled into this field. I found my career drifting more and more in my research and my work as an academic, until finally one day I said, I really should dedicate my whole life to trying to help physicians learn how to do preventive medicine in their practice. So that became where the transition occurred.
That's incredible, which you've done. I mean, you've had an amazing impact. As I mentioned at the beginning, guys, Jeffrey is considered the father of functional medicine by many. For people that have never heard the term functional medicine, because unfortunately it's still a sort of niche practice in terms of the grand landscape of medicine in this country, what is functional medicine?
Well, I would say that it really is the medicine that treats the cause and not the effect. The medicine that we have today is really good at modifying effects, pain, disability, sleep, all sorts of different medications for different outcomes. But the question is, where did those come from? What was upstream? What actually produced those symptoms that our drugs then treat? And I think over the last 20 years, as contrasted to when I was in medical school in the 60s, we didn't know the explanation of where most of these things came from. Today it's very different.
You kind of were just seeing the tip of the iceberg.
That's exactly right.
At that point.
So it was naming and blaming, medical taxonomy. If you could name it as a disease, multiple sclerosis, systemic lupus erythematosus, and suddenly you were expected that you knew it. Well, that was actually not the case. So now we actually have explanations of the origin. We know how these different conditions express themselves in different ways in different people. So the real question is, how, as a detective, do we assist the person to treat the cause and not the effect? That's functional medicine.
That's so incredible. And functional medicine has been making incredible strides thanks to your work, thanks to Mark Hyman, David Perlmutter, my friend Robin Burrs, and there's so many people, practitioners that are out there pulling this style of medical practice forward. I mean, what can people that are listening do to help?
Well, I think the first thing was just to check into the functional medicine website. The Institute for Functional Medicine is in its 25th year this year, I'm very proud to say.
Wow.
We've had now well in excess of 100,000 healthcare providers that have gone through the courses. So if you go to instituteforfunctionalmedicine.com or functionalmedicine.com, you can really access a very large body of information that kind of gives a sense as to what's going on, and there's a referral base there for physicians doing this kind of work around the country. So
that's great. I mean, for people that live in parts of the country where they don't necessarily have access to functional medicine practitioners, can they go to that website and find practitioners that are close by?
yes,
that might
yeah,
adhere
it's
to
a
some of these?
referral to their zip code, so they can find the closest practitioner that's
Wow.
been certified.
Awesome, amazing. Well, thank you so much. How can people learn more about your work? Your latest book is The Disease Delusion, is that correct?
Thank you, that's correct, yeah.
Incredible book. Go pick that up. I'll post a link actually down below for you guys. Do you have a website?
Yeah, jeffreybland.com, or you can go to the Personalized Lifestyle Medicine Institute website, which has literally hundreds of videos of opinion leaders that have talked on all sorts of topics that you might be interested on, that free access. So we had over 1 million hits on our social media on our Personalized Lifestyle Medicine website last year. So please come join us and see what we're up to.
Awesome. Well, it's been a privilege to sit and chat with you, so thank you.
It's been my privilege. Thanks. You're doing a great job.
Thank you so much. Cheers, guys. Peace out. In health.